Hi guys, it's TJ. Just let you know, please subscribe to Jamie Powell, he is a legend.
I know who you are. You are travelers. And you are here because I allow the mists to part. For I am Mannnan, shapeshifter, navigator, mapmaker, trickster, a god made of many hearts, and as ancient as the first people who lived on this island. You have come to hear the great story, which remembers the people who once trod this land and sailed its waters. The story of man. It's a story of real people who lived in places you can still find not far from where you stand now. They live still through the stories they want you to hear. Because why else do we tell stories if it isn't to hand down the history of our time on this earth? After the Celt came the Viking, and after the Viking came many others who coveted this island. They came from nearby lands, from England, Scotland, and Ireland. And when the seafarers of man crossed the oceans of the world, they returned with their stories. The story I will tell you is the story of man. It will take you to the places where the people who once lived here left their imprint. Visit them with me. They are out there. Travelers. And you are here because I allow the mists.
It's fine.
Though writing was not introduced until the biblical era, the survival into modern times of the Gaelic warrior hero myth and so much pagan.
We watched the film again.
The effectiveness of the Celtic storytelling tradition. Here is Ragbeck of course, the very soul of the England who begins the old storytelling.
And saw something there before her was a beautiful young woman climbing out of a chasm in the earth. She stared at Winder, a face as pale and cold as the slivers of ice that hang from the branches of the tramman tree. And then Winder saw an old crone crawling out of the abyss, looking like the bleached bones of a long-dead sheep. The apparitions moved toward Winder, croaking like the hoarse black raven.
Grandad, this is making me more frightened. Did they catch me? I mean, Winder.
Closer and closer they came. All Winder could do was to cry out, "Cúna Marglas, help me, Cúna Marglas." Now the spirits were at the doorpost, banging on it, louder than the drums that beat out the music of the moon. Suddenly, in the dark shadows of the doorway, Winder saw the gleam of the sword of Cúna Marglas. To her surprise, he beckoned the spirits in and told them to warm themselves by the flickering fire. And they passed by Winder, and she was very safe. And she opened her eyes to find she'd been asleep. The spirits had been dreaming her story.
But why didn't the sword of Cunimagla shine red to stop the spirits?
Because he knows the spirits well. The beautiful young woman was the spirit of Bridget, brother's wife to Cunimaglas.
But what about the old crow?
That was the spirit of Urlach, brother's sister to my own great-grandma. She was still here when we cut the sods which made this great roof. Half of the people of your family helped build this house. Dead now. The spirits of the first dead have been with us all summer, and they were keeping us company last night. They live forever in the dream that is dreaming us. They were in the mead that Cunimaglas passed around in the drinking cup, that tricked our memories into nothing but laughing and singing. Thanks to the spirits, the harvest's in, and there's food for winter and seed corn for next year. The beasts have been killed, and there's meat enough to last till spring. You'll be fed this winter. Now go to sleep and dream of the sun coming back. This isn't a night to be afraid. Everything's as it should. Go to sleep.
So the family of the house of Cunimaglas, they wait for their Bealtaine. The first day of May, the sun will return, the earth will be fertile once more. But now, winter fears prey upon them. Their ears are pricked for the wind that blows them stories of those who will bring other gods to their sacred places. Roman gods are worshipped across the sea, and there is word on the wind of those who follow one god above all. But Mannan's mists will shroud this island. The Celts keep their pagan gods everywhere around them. The stone, the waves, and the wind. They will follow me.
As I.
As you.
Oh shit, yeah.
Will follow me.
Yeah, I'll keep recording for this, and then because it's another one, isn't it? That's the thing, and then just keep recording when I go around. So I want to make it just a big one video of it.
Well, there's wild enough things walking on Samhain night, it's true.
I saw them.
All right now, you're all right. There are things to be frightened of, plenty, but the story I'll tell you will keep you safe.
I am mannnan MacLear to them, a god for all their seasons. It is a time in between times. The spirits of the dead yearn for the warmth of the families where they once knew rest and comfort. And Samhain, the night you know as Halloween, is the end of the Celts' harvest, the beginning of their winter, and the start of their new year.
The gods of our tribe! Gods!
You were listening to Cunimaglas last night when he raised his sword and told us of the journeys he'd been on.
His sword shines red when he's angry.
And when he's killed the beasts, as he did last night, and it shone red in the story he was telling us. But I know someone who wasn't listening to that story.
Who?
A little girl just the size of you. Only her name was Winda. And Winda crept away from the fire to see if anyone was outside.
Wasn't she frightened?
No, she was as curious as a kitten. She crept up to the doorway and saw something appear. There before her was a beautiful young woman climbing out of a chasm in the earth. She stared at Winda, her face as pale and cold as the slivers of ice that hang from the branches of the tramman tree. And then Winda saw an old crone crawling out of the abyss, looking like the bleached bones of a long dead sheep. The apparitions moved toward Winda, croaking like the hoarse black raven.
Grandad, this is making me more frightened. Do they catch me? I mean, Winter.
Closer and closer they came. All Winda could do was to cry out, "Kuna Maglas, help me, Kuna Maglas." Now the spirits were at the doorpost, banging on it, louder than the drums that beat out the music of the moon. Suddenly, in the dark shadows of the doorway, Winda saw the gleam of the sword of Kuna Maglas. To her surprise, he beckoned the spirits in and told them to warm themselves by the flickering fire. And they passed by Winda, and she was very safe. And she opened her eyes to find she'd been asleep. The spirits had been dreaming her story.
But why didn't the sword of Kunamagla shine red to stop the spirits?
Because he knows the spirits well. The beautiful young woman was the spirit of Bridget, brother's wife to Kuna Maglas.
But what about the old crow?
That was the spirit of Urluk, brother's sister to my own great-grandma. She was still here when we cut the sods which made this great roof. Half of the people of your family helped build this house. Dead now. The spirits of the first dead have been with us all summer, and they were keeping us company last night. They live forever in the dream that is dreaming us. They were in the mead that Kuna Maglas passed around in the drinking cup, that tricked our memories into nothing but laughing and singing. Thanks to the spirits, the harvest's in, and there's food for winter and seed corn for next year. The beasts have been killed, and there's meat enough to last till spring. You'll be fed this winter. Now go to sleep and dream of the sun coming back. This isn't a night to be afraid. Everything's as it should. Go to sleep.
So the family of the house of Kuna Maglos, they wait for their Bealtaine. First day of May, the sun will return, the earth will be fertile once more. But now, winter fears prey upon them. Their ears are pricked for the wind that blows them stories of those who will bring other gods to their sacred places. Roman gods are worshipped across the sea, and there is word on the wind of those who follow one god above all. But Mannan's mists will shroud this island, and the Celts will keep their pagan gods everywhere around them, in the stone, in the waves, in the wind. They will follow me, as you will follow me.
Keep filming it, like when I'm out here. But when you come to that screen, so you put it there as well.
Patrick, they say, is banishing mannnan. But surely it is an unwise plan. Yes, I, the sheep, that can become my honor as I traveling from darling. Find out yourselves.
Agus coní conas anas an áde dó lachis fór orf Egypt and no Andrew.
It's the only funeral that you can film. You ready?
Watch the sea. Look out for ravens blown in on the salt wind. Be sure that on the next tide we'll see long ships from the north, following the flight of the raven to land. And on the same autumn wind, listen for Viking boasts of fire and blood, of sword hatred and war bands. On those ships travel Thorleif and Thorkel, sons of Ulf, warriors who would be traders, adventurers who would be settlers. Will Mannan's cloak of mist protect this island? Does a sea fog mind who's lost? Does a story mind who tells it?
Oh, no! 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 No!
Good. Good. Why burn a harvest when you can turn it to bread? Why make an enemy of a woman when you can father her son and call him by the name of his mother's people? A Viking was a pirate until he arrived somewhere he wanted to be. And to these shores he brought his own customs, his own gods and his own laws. A way of life that was bartered in marriage with the Celts. And the blood that was mingled became Manx blood in the end. And the stories they told became another part of the story of man. Watch the sea. Look out for ravens blown in on the salt wind. Be sure that on the next tide we'll see long ships from the north, following the flight of the raven to land. And on the same autumn wind, listen for mighty roars, fire and blood, sword hatred, war.
It's still there.
The sword is put away, longest beat. Radar has become the dove. No mist of my making prevented Torkel, the Viking raider, from finding this island and becoming husband to Finn, the Celtic woman who fled from him. And the surest sign that the Viking has settled in peace with the Celt is the children born of both.
You've done enough, Vind. That's plenty.
There'd be plenty if it wasn't for Sandal. He'll have the appetite of an ox when he comes down off that roof.
Sandal will eat what he's given. Keeping our stomachs well filled is as important as keeping us dry.
The Viking and the Celt had their differences, their own ways of doing things, and they are still learning each other's tongue.
Inom lioran liomin fala. Men skorvali sir meid malito.
Volisker der darf movar hula.
I thought we were going to leave the bottom fields fallow another year. Why have you set the men to ploughing them?
We had the beasts there all summer. The earth can be turned again. I think I know my own land.
Land tires.
My family have worked the fields of Irish Rogan for enough years to have buried here the father of my father's father.
I know.
The soil you know well is several sea journeys away.
I can see you've been busy while I was away. The land's been well cared for. Now and that, I could do with some of that attention.
You can wait. Finn and I have the meal to make for all of you. Then we've to be busy with our prayers.
The Vikings brought their own way of worship when they arrived here. So what became of the new god of the Celts of Man, the one god and his cross?
When did you last talk to your god? Last night? When did you last see your husband? Last year. Prayers can wait.
You can wait if you don't rush the journey off you.
You hate me leaving to tend my prayers too, don't you?
I can live with that. It's the way you raise my children.
What are you talking about?
You see? You don't understand me either.
Try making sense once in a while.
They don't speak my language.
They talk, don't they? That's the important thing.
I just want my own flesh and blood to say good morning to their own father in his own
Well,
language.
try talking to them once in a while. They'd pick up your speech if they ever heard it.
I sang them to sleep last night.
You call that singing? You do, don't you? You call that singing and you call this talking. You want to hear real talking? We hussav and re in Alban, idir idon agus gart nol. Godor her leth fair nalban edru I glathen. Now that's talking. That's a language for songs and stories. Ask your brother. He's made the effort. In Viron Fanag a Thorliv.
What you saying, Thorliv?
Oh no, you're not dragging me into this.
You speak both tongues, Thorliv. Which one hurts your mouth?
It's Sandalf you should be asking, not me. He speaks the language like he was born here.
Pity he can't fix a roof as fast as he talks.
He pulls his weight.
A good Norse roof, you promised me. But it hasn't lasted half the time my grandfather's roof lasted, has it?
Mom needed half a forest to keep it up above our heads.
When Celt and Viking came together, which names and which language lived on? The Celtic language was the language at the mother's breast, and it survived. And the Viking stories and histories were told in it. But the Norse names the Vikings first gave to their lands have endured 1,000 years. Snæfell, Snow Mountain. Laxey, Salmon River. Greenock, the Green Creek. The Vikings left their marks on the landscape in places you can still find as you explore their story of man. Thorleif Naki erected this cross in memory of Fiach, his son, Viking father, whose son had a Celtic name. Look at the stones. Listen to their stories.
Oh yeah, it's up there, but his lights turned off. There you go, you can point it down now. Watch out, guys. Where the camera's watching.
Innum lioran liomin falar. Men skorvalisir meidmel.
In your fólisgur de darf muvahula.
Eilein araugu ef an kona manni. I mork vasta murkri mei araugu lisa.
The sword is put away. The longship is beached. The raven has become the dove. No mist of my making prevented Thorkel, the Viking raider, from finding this island and becoming husband to Finn, the Celtic woman who fled from him. And the surest sign that the Viking has settled and made peace for the Celt is the children born of both.
You've done enough, Finn. That's plenty.
There'd be plenty if it wasn't for Sandal. He'll have the appetite of an ox when he comes down off that roof.
Sandal will eat what he's given. Keeping our stomachs well filled is as important as keeping us dry.
The Viking and the Celt had their differences, their own ways of doing things, and they are still learning each other's tongue.
Innum lioran liomin falar. Men skorvalisir meidmelitu.
Fólisgur de darf muvahula.
I thought we were going to leave the bottom fields fallow another year. Why have you set the men to ploughing them?
We had the beasts there all summer. The earth can be turned again. I think I know my own land.
Land tires.
My family have worked the fields of Irish Rogan for enough years to have buried here the father of my father's father.
I know.
The soil you know well is several sea journeys away.
I can see you've been busy while I was away. The land's been well cared for. Now I'm back. I could do with some of that attention.
You can wait. Finn and I have the meal to make for all of you. Then we've to be busy with our prayers.
The Vikings brought their own way of worship when they arrived here. So what became of the new god of the Celts of Man, the one god and his cross?
When did you last talk to your god? Last night? When did you last see your husband? Last year. Prayers can wait.
You can wait if you don't rush the journey off you.
You hate me leaving to tend my prayers too, don't you?
I can live with that. It's the way you raise my children.
What are you talking about?
You see? You don't understand me either.
Try making sense once in a while.
They don't speak my language.
They talk, don't they? That's the important thing.
I just want my own flesh and blood to say good morning to their own father in his own language.
Well, try talking to them once in a while. They'd pick up your speech if they ever heard it.
I sang them to sleep last night.
You call that singing? You do, don't you? You call that singing and you call this talking. You want to hear real talking? We am hussav and ri in Alban, idir idon agus gartnon. Godor her left bear nalban edru I glathan. Now that's talking. That's a language for songs and stories. Ask your brother. He's made the effort. In Viron Fanag at Thorliv.
What you saying, Thorliv?
Oh no, you're not dragging me into this.
You speak both tongues, Thorliv. Which one hurts your mouth?
It's Sandalf you should be asking, not me. He speaks the language like he was born here.
Pity he can't fix a roof as fast as he talks.
He pulls his weight.
A good Norse roof, you promised me. But it hasn't lasted half the time my grandfather's roof lasted, has it?
Not needed half a forest to keep it up above our heads.
When Celt and Viking came together, which names and which language lived on? The Celtic language was the language at the mother's breast, and it survived. And the Viking stories and histories were told in it. But the Norse names the Vikings first gave to their lands have endured 1,000 years. Snæfell, Snow Mountain. Laxey, Salmon River. Greenock, the Green Creek. The Vikings left their marks on the landscape in places you can still find as you explore their story of man. Thorleif Naki erected this cross in memory of Theok, his son, Viking father, whose son had a Celtic name. Look at the stones. Listen to their stories.
Brigby, son of Atkin the smith, erected this cross. Joab, son of Norrell the Red, erected this cross to the memory of Mud. Sandalf the Black erected this cross to the memory of Aranmil, his wife. Thorleif Naki erected this cross to the memory of Tyr, his son. Listen to the stories. Listen to the stories and the stones. They are cut in the soft grey slate of this island, in ancient alphabets of Ogham and Woon, carved into the rock of man. And in all the world, there is no array of stones like these. The stories and the stones were told so you would remember the living through the memories of their dead and travel the same journey. Because a story is the tale of a traveler told to a traveler. Those who listen to it go on its journey. Sandalf the Black erected this cross to the memory of Aranmil, his wife.
No one could ride a horse as she could. Make it a fair cross. I'll pay you silver. Let them see how much of what I own can be spent on our memory. Now she's gone.
All those people honored the god they had found worshipped in man. But the ancient myths of Odin and his raven lived on in their hearts and minds.
Then they heard the baying of the wolf, Fenrir. And this was the beginning of the end of all things. It was an axe age, a sword age, and shields were shattered. Before man's ages ended, no man would spare his neighbour. Heimdall blows his horn, like you once blew the horn, grandfather. The giants break loose, and Odin goes to kill the wolf. But his sword cannot kill it. Its teeth devour him. He can't hear me anymore. The sun blackens. The earth sinks under the sea. It is the end. I remember him telling me this story over and over again.
Melvin, son of Attica the smith, erected this house on his own soul. God made this and all in man.
Bjornsson made this. I made this. And all in man.
God was a Viking storyteller who knew that his stories would one day reach your ears as surely as the light from a long dead star must one day reach your eyes. And God cut his name in runes so that you would know which of the great crosses he carved. And so you would know also that he was the son of Bjorn from Kol and the Hebrides. But centuries before God, there was another storyteller. He lived on the calf of man, and his story, finely carved in the stone of his altar, revered a Christian God. And elsewhere in man, other Christian communities erected crosses that told simpler stories. The monks of the ancient Macro monastery affectionately recorded their memories of Brandy. Remember Brandy, who led water from this place. Remember Brandy. Remember Brandy.
So Sigurd had the great sword made for him by Regan. He had the great horse Grom, chosen by the god Odin himself. And he rose up and put his weapons about him and went out to win Fafnir's gold. How terrible was Fafnir. Fafnir, the serpent dragon. How terrible was he? He was the snake, the size of a long ship. Sigurd drove his sword up into the monster, right into its heart. Then he held that sword fast as the dark blood fell hot about it. And the monster screamed and writhed and tore at the metal which had pierced its very life. Then Sigurd cut out Fafnir's heart and put it over a fire. He wanted to see if it was ready. He felt it to see if it was cooked. He burned his fingers too. And when he sucked them, he found he could understand the language of all the creatures of the earth and the birds that flew.
The storytellers left their mark on this island for you to find in the stones that remember their pasts and imagine their futures. They told their stories so that those who came after them could find their way along the same journey. The crosses survive still for you to find in the holy places of Bride, Andreas, Radon, Michael, Jerby, Macwood, and Lund. Go and see them.
Brighton Field is very small now. We're safe again. And I'm at Maclear. Bring me safe, O Lord.
From here, Brodier of Man, Viking chief, forged his battle ambitions. Brodier's longships are bound for Ireland, where they will soon join the army of his fellow Viking, Sigurd of the Orkneys, in the Battle of Montas. Brodier and many of those with him will not return.
Hundreds of years, battles were fought to control this maritime fortress. New castles were built on the sites of even older fortresses, here at Peel and Russian. Abbots and lords and kings came along my road to possess it, the seat of their power.
They say it settles the stars, my lord. Not be boastful and let me die now. But think where we are going. The kingdom of man. For to be able to do God's work inside of his earthly power. No one from our order before in England has been so honored. Who told you that? God forgive me for my pride. Already, kill me for it.
And in the abbeys and great churches of this island, there were those who recorded what happened to my kingdom in these turbulent years. They did their job well, and the medieval chronicle of the kings of Man and the Isles survives and can still tell its part of the story of man.
In the year 1134, King Olaf granted to Michael, abbot of Furness, part of his land in Yemen, to establish a place called and enthusiastic, and was welcome both God and men.
Sometimes we were able to die so your mouth that was originally common. And that's why they say so to show you how they were from in Europe. But the Sodor was Sodor, which is summer.
The longship is the enduring symbol of Viking achievement. These superb vessels were perhaps the supreme technological achievement of the early Middle Ages, carrying the Northmen from their Scandinavian home to the four corners of the known world, and quite a few places beyond, to undiscovered lands. The dragon ships brought the Northmen to Man, and the shelter afforded by St. Patrick's Island made Peel Harbour the pivot from where they could control the whole Irish Sea.
From here on Peel Hill, you can see some of the boats of King Magnus Bairlegs of Norway at anchor.
A new ship is under construction on Strand.
Out to sea is the ship in this hall, Odin's Raven. At my feet lies a chart of the new world of trade and adventure opened up by the durability of these astonishing ships.
Touch items that interest you to find out more.
Different types of Viking ships have been discovered, preserved as shipwrecks, and in royal burial of different shapes and sizes.
Here is a merchant adventurer. Here is a Viking warrior and raider. This is a Viking who has settled down on Man as a fisherman and farmer. See if you can match the sail to the ship. Which hull profile would suit the warrior race? Would he choose the small nimble craft penetrating of rivers? Would he choose the broad craft known as a canal for its possible facility and navigation? Or would he go the more thin design for utility? Yes, I think warships well armed has been steady and war.
It's an art. You can't take the wind. Trying not to make don't bring you the little penny boy. You have to take it strong and use it. That's good boss. Otherwise, that's why they begin for their savings until I move the wind. Why is it called a nickname? Now you ask me. What the boys tell you is that the first wind was a Cornish rule. Good God, it was used in all those names. So the boys called it a nick. That's the case again. I dare say it's something to although there's a few around here will tell you something that's why they can say it. But here to the school. Just like the boys down the field. Sails that do them down. And I shares in one myself, the Louis, so I should know what I'm talking about. You're asking me about Mickey's. And Mickey carries 3 sets of muscles. Second look. Aye, I do. Tell them to send their boys up. What was he saying? Oh, aye. The second look and the story, what I call the 70, which I'm making out of 70 square yards of #1 cotton canvas. The beauty of the 70 is it means a Nicky can lie closer to the wind than a wire, but it takes good seamanship. If you can't handle it, I say you're better off in a dandy smack, because that's got a tabernacle mast which you can lower aft when it's not in use, and that lets the boat lie more quietly to the net. It's an art. You can't trick the wind. Tying knots and handkerchiefs won't bring you the luck anymore. You have to take it strong and use it. Tell it who's boss, otherwise. And that's why they'll be waiting for their sails until I'm good and ready. Why is it called a Nicky? Now you're asking me. What the boys tell you is that the first Nicky was a Cornish boat. When it was brought into Peel, it was already named the Nicholas, so the boys called it a Nicky. That's what they say, and I dare say there's some truth in that. Although there's a few round here who'll tell you some terrible lies. If you stay, have a cup of tea from the stove. Don't mind the boys down on the quay. Lost the use of their legs. My visitors, you'll have to wait. It'll be ready, don't you be worrying about that. Bonnie Jane is Johnny Williams. Him was always in trouble. That's a farm Glen Mayway. Goes to the fishing for the spring and summer seasons. And a man who won't be kept waiting. You'll understand that a good repair to a sail takes time. And every sail here is hand-sewn, palm and needle, no machine. I dare say a machine can run a straight a stitch. The finest Nickies are made here in Peel, no doubt about that. And I'm making the sails that do them proud. And I've shares in one myself, the Louis, so I should know what I'm talking about. You're asking me about Nickies. A Nicky carries 3 sets of looksels. Second look. Aye, I do. Tell them to send their boys up. What was he saying? Oh, aye. The second look and the stone rig, what I call the 70, which I'm making out of 70 square yards of #1 cotton canvas. The beauty of the 70 is it means a Nicky can lie closer to the wind than a wire, but it takes good seamanship. If you can't handle it, I say you're better off in a dandy smack, because that's got a tabernacle mast which you can lower aft when it's not in use, and that lets the boat lie more quietly to the net. It's an art. You can't trick the wind. Tying knots and handkerchiefs won't bring you the luck anymore. You have to take it strong and use it. Tell it who's boss, otherwise. And that's why they'll be waiting for their sails until I'm good and ready. Why is it called a Nicky? Now you're asking me. What the boys tell you is that the first Nicky was a Cornish boat. When it was brought into Peel, it was already named the Nicholas, so the boys called it a Nicky. That's what they say, and I dare say there's some truth in it. Although there's a few round here who'll tell you some terrible lies. If you're staying, have a cup of tea from the stove. Don't mind the boys down on the quay. Lost the use of their legs.
Nathan?
Yeah.
You alright?
Palm and needle, no machine. I dare say a machine can run a straight a stitch.
finest Nickies are made here in Peel, no doubt about that. And I'm making the sales that do them down. And I've shares in one myself, so Lily. So I should know what I'm talking about. You're asking me about the Mickeys. A Mickey carries 3 sets of luxels. First lung, second lung.
Have you already made?
Aye, I do. Tell them to set their boys up. What does it say? Oh, aye. The second lug and the stone what I call the 70, which I'm making out of 70 square yards of number 1 cotton canvas. The beauty of the 70 is it means the Mickey will lie closer to the wind than a hooker, but it takes good seamanship. If you can't handle it, I say you're better off in a dandy spell, because that's got a tabernacle mast which you can lower out when there's no
No good follow that, I can tell you. The boats must ride together. None goes out third. Certain bad luck if you don't. Some trips then caught laughing despite all their prayers. And I've seen every one of that family throwing the bones of a heron into the fire. Something you never should do, because the heron will feel the flames and not thank you for it. And wasn't Neddy Cashin heard calling the longtail by its rightful name in plain hearing on the back of the ocean itself? Begging for bad luck if you ask me. No one would believe he came back with his neck on.
You're both wrong. I'm selling me boats to get one of these new nobbies. They're a starboard, high and cheap enough. One you can own by yourself too. No need for shares.
Don't think so.
No, they may be, but middle of an old man. When all you scrapping boys are keeping yourselves up to Canada and Australia and finding jobs where you're keeping your feet dry.
See the worries at should I be guessing it's young June?
Aye, it is. He sailed with the island last. They were out in the early tide just as the storm was coming up.
Aye, I saw them go.
3 months he'll be away at the fishing.
They'll be to conceal first for the mackerel.
Nicky is fast. It'll have your luck in sailing.
It's in bathroom now.
Has always pointed the way for this island's prosperity. Its seafarers have made its fortunes as surely as the people of man make their own laws. But when it's on the wrong side of the law, a bottle of rum becomes a bottle of contraband. So when does honest trade under the flag of man turn into smuggling? There are those here who will tell you George Moore. Touch his brandy bottle to hear his story. Philo Quell, touch his sea chest to hear his story. Mrs. Matilda Carroll, touch her parasol to hear her story. You choose whose story you want to hear first.
We met up with the Dutch vessel behind the Chicken Rocks. Out of sight of any prying excise cutter. We took on a good load of tobacco. I had the rich smell of it in my nose and the taste on my tongue. But it was my last job for a good long time. We should never have tried to outrun the excise cutter. Theirs is a far faster boat to ours. They knew we had something to hide and they came after us. All for a few drinks and a smoke. I'm a fisherman. But because I'm caught with a few paltry gallons of brandy inside the mullered floats, I'm branded a smuggler. What I did was wrong in the eyes of the English law, but in no one else's eyes, particularly not the English gentry in the island who are keen on their cut-rate brandy and tobacco. They flee here to avoid paying their proper debts in their homeland. Aye, debts they owe to their fellows and to their country. But I'm the one who has to pay the price.
He who takes the risk, Fimbo Krellin, takes the rewards. It's the very principle of business. But we must all pay our dues. If you're caught on the wrong side of the law, you find yourself on the wrong side of the prison gate.
What compassion can I expect from a man who, despite all his wealth, sets man-traps in the orchards of his estates to catch those who petty pilfer his apples? There's no difference between us more, save that you sell to the smuggler and I buy from him. Neither of us should rot in jail, or both of us should. The wealth of this island has been made by the running trade this last 100 years or more. But it's the same old story. The small fish get caught and the big ones get away. It's a funny old fishing net that does that, isn't it? But will it ever change?
Touch the brandy bottle, touch the parasol, and choose another story of the sea.
It is not right that this small island finds such a dark shadow cast over its right to trade freely. The stated aim of the Revesting Act of 1765 is to prevent smuggling into and from the Isle of Man. But I warn everyone that it'll be the ruin of honest merchants like myself. The laws of trade favour the English alone. When did they ever not? And when they are flouted, it is by English and Scotch smugglers who purchase the goods I sell in good faith. My pleas to the Almighty receive no attention. How could they? While his servant, the bishop, claimed we defrauded the sovereign state and built the wealth of this island on the sale of spirits to smugglers.
I'm hoping the Almighty will spend more time concerning himself with the plight of poor souls such as me. I'm an honest peel fisherman. When the customs caught up with me, I'd barely enough contraband on board to give a drink and a smoke to a few shipmates, with a bit left over for my family.
Every man should stand responsible for his own actions. Because I sell to a smuggler does not make me a runner of contraband.
Not in your eyes, maybe, but the songers can speak with a plain enough tongue. And we've no doubt you're the smuggler's accomplice.
What little you know. I am too often the victim of crime, not the perpetrator. I've made repeated complaints about the seizure of my goods from neutral vessels and bound for sale to Scotland.
We both lost our cargoes, but you kept your freedom. I lost mine. The English Crown put me behind bars, but they knighted you for services to the Crown, Sir George. That couldn't have been thanks to the amount of duty you paid on your Spanish brandy.
Damn your impertinence. When the sails of my vessels break the horizon, they bring good fortune for this whole island. Now, pray for a fair wind from Barcelona. That same vessel was out for America full of good Scotch cloth, sold at Boston, and the whole filled with salt fish and rum. On to Gibraltar, where the fish were sold, and the whole filled again at Barcelona with 5,000 gallons of Spanish brandy. That is a busy and honest trade, and nothing I should be ashamed of.
Your fortune, Moore, serves you first and last. This is a small island, so we know all about the gifts your family received from every trip. The scarlet satin, the crimson velvet, the earrings, the fans, the Barcelona handkerchiefs.
You've your own boat, Krellin. Fill it with whatever cargo you wish and reap the reward. As long as you are also ready to pay the price. And I'm Sir George to you.
Touch the sea chest. Touch the parasol. Choose another story of the sea.
It's gone, it's backing. Post port. Faster.
Bearing starboard! Support!
We're on our longest voyage yet, without sight of land, 170 days, and our water's very low. It is a strenuous life and a dangerous one that keeps the fortunes of this island afloat. This island depends upon the likes of us, the fleets and merchants who make their livelihoods from international trade. We pray the end must come soon. The men have pooled their food and water to make sure the children don't go without. And praise the children. We have sailed through typhoons that flooded the cabins, but their spirits are undaunted. All three of my children were born at sea, and we know the latitudes and longitudes for each one's place of birth. I cannot regret the dangers of this life when I recall the wondrous things we have seen and shared as a family. It seems another lifetime away when I was just an 18-year-old girl hailing from Dunedin, New Zealand, newly met with George Carron, husband-to-be. The parasol shelters me from the sun, but when the gale-force winds are driving my husband's vessel around Cape Horn, it's stowed in the furthest corner of the boat. We fly the Mag's flag proudly above our vessel, the Lady Elizabeth. It flies above every ship in the Carron fleet, and in every port we visit, from Chile to Australia, from Tierra del Fuego to Panama. But we have been ordered on more than one occasion to lower it, by the British consul of all people, who should know better. My husband George soon put an end to that. He telegraphed to Lord Salisbury, the British Premier. His message came back: let the Manxman alone. Let him fly his flag.
A finer motto I cannot think of. Let the Manxman alone. Let him fly his flag.
I knew when my husband bade me choose the ship for our voyage to Mannnan from New Zealand that I was choosing my home. And every home I have had while I stayed at my husband's side moved with the waves that lifted it. But although I have often longed for more of the comforts of life, I make no complaint. It has been a good life.
Touch the brandy bottle. Touch the sea chest. Choose another story of the sea.
I always hoped I wouldn't have to come to the lead factory. But to be honest, I don't think I could name a woman in my family who hasn't worked there in her time. All the lanes of Peel lead down to the quayside. I spend too many hours threading these nets. Too long for my children. Home without me. Baby Joss too. She misses her daddy still. In 3 years gone now. 83 was a cruel year. But you go on, don't you? Children need to be fed. You can work as hard as you like, but you can't change your luck without money.
Now there I'll disagree, young lady, though I do so without any unkindness. A man may profit from his endeavours without limit, I say, provided his endeavours are also without limit. And my profit is the profit of Peel. 134 souls count their blessings for their work in my yards and on my boats.
A bí stawr ons cognacht and jibs. A chanel mi grey ac na tam I fedden. Sgwbiliams na ta paich a fi grey. Ta oga ons na taien gris vi en dînum duel as cry. As hanel en fail a ping na ge. As ta cwsta lai ons pert na hinja. Iarach yn unryd. Me can gofrach the hon. Vainsta in mi graves. Ie ma ta grelid. There isn't a woman in my family who won't say the same as I do.
You're entitled to your opinions. One man's pittance is another man's plenty, and I believe we have always set a fair wage.
You'll not find many employers who feed a family out of the kind of fair wage I'm paid. I want to be the last of my family to work at the net making. I want better for my daughter. Every hour God sends I work, so my daughter can stay at school. She's clever. She could be a pupil teacher even, or a dressmaker. Sew something daintier than nets. And if my baby is spared to reach manhood, I don't want him to be putting on the oilskins. There's too many that perish going to the fishing.
Touch the ledger. Touch the radar screen. Touch the flare. Choose another story of the sea.
I know what you're expecting me to say. You're thinking I'll be griping on about the newfangled technology that's changed the face of fishing, and that no good will come of it for Peel. You'd be wrong. Where'd we be without radar and echo sounders? They save lives and they find the fish. The boats my father sailed on took their bearings from the compass and the sextant, and whatever landmarks they could see. By the time I went to the fishing, we were using the wireless and then shared the catch money. If you owned the boat, you'd get a bigger share. Back in the 70s, you could still make good money on the herring if you could find any Latin fish. But now the boats are bigger and they're just clearing out the Irish Sea. The fishing's just dying off altogether here.
I find it hard to believe the day will ever come when we will fish the herring out of existence. It's beyond even man's powers to empty this bountiful larder. I won't deny that we've had poor years, and we all suffer if it's a bad year for the herring. But my belief is that the sea will always be silver, and Peel's fortunes will shine.
I'd have thought you of all people would have foreseen what was going to happen. It wasn't that we became complacent, although there may have been a touch of dread allure time enough about us. No, our problem was that we were too small and too poor to compete when bigger boats were built. Nowadays the herring is brought into Peel by the bigger Scottish and Irish boats. And they leave the queenies and the scallops, which you can catch with smaller boats, to the Manx. It wasn't only our livelihoods that suffered. It was also our way of life, our way of doing things. Used to be you could always meet someone in the quay, chatting in the shops or in the workshops. They've all gone now. That's my only gripe. and I suppose in the end we have to make the best of it. But we shouldn't forget that if we take care of the sea, it will take care of us.
Touch the ledger. Touch the radar screen. Touch the flare. Choose another story of the sea.
One man lost. Looks like that was not to believe in me. The damage to boats is nothing. The best part of all is that not one single seaman went down with the wreckage of the steam packet. Our lifeboat had one purpose: to save lives. There is no crueler thing than standing helpless, watching ships founder and men drown, so near to shore, so far from home. I've kept the vow I made that one day we would launch lifeboats to go to the aid of vessels imperiled by the rocky shores of this island. My appeal for money to build lifeboats and lifeboat stations at every breakwater was answered from around the world. My only fear now is whether the lifeboats themselves will founder for want of money and brave crews to take them out in the worst of weathers.
There's never been any want of brave men to man the Peel boat. My whole family was on the lifeboat. I grew up with it. I remember the days when you didn't go by car to the lifeboat, you'd be called by the maroon gunner. You'd leg it there. First 6 went out. We were all fishermen living near the boat in those days. Now there's only 2 fishermen on the crew. They're called out by pages. But there's no boasting to be done. I'm no different from any other fisherman in this town. Someone at sea needs help, you go out to them. The lifeboat is the one boat that's never short crew.
I stand well directed by your faith in human nature. I've just returned. Survived might be a more apt word, from the rescue of the crew of the St. George. She had been driven on the rocks, but a gap remained between her and the reef. I brought our vessel into this, stern first. We were crashed between the rocks of the ship. A wave broke across my head. The next moment I was in the sea. I cannot swim, but nothing could have swum in that furious. I caught a rope on the side of the St. George. My ribs smashed against her side. But the lifeboat was there to lift me and all the crew from the wreck. 36 men. It was a fierce struggle, one against all the odds. The wreck of the steam packet is nothing more than money lost for men with more in their pockets. But the lives saved are priceless.
Touch the ledger. Touch the radar screen. Touch the flare. Choose another story of the sea.
$134 working men of Peel owe their livelihood to me. I have 2 shipbuilding yards, a timber yard, a sawmill, a sailmaking loft, rope works, blacksmiths. I employ masons, carpenters, riggers and carters. We can't get the keels in the water fast enough. What has profited me has profited Peel. Oh, there's plenty of gold to be made from the silver herring.
The herring makes fortunes for some, and the catching of it has made widows of others. And one breadwinner won't save my children from the sting of poverty.
I'm as bereaved as the next man when any of my seafarers are lost at sea. But the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. The vessels built in my yard, sailing under my flag, are the safest that honest labour can build. And the fleet keeps growing. Our yard makes all sizes of vessels, not just fishing boats. Schooners with our name painted on their prows sail the whole world. You'll have heard of the Vixen. She was ours. She went all the way to Australia and back and took plenty from here to make a new life for themselves in the colonies. Of course, the herringless, this town's staple provider. As long as the silver herring can still be turned to gold, our fortunes float upon them.
Touch the ledger. Touch the radar stream. Touch the flare. Choose another story.